Way back in 1950, a man named Alan Turing published this paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, that honestly changed everything. And it all kicked off with one simple, massive question that we are still trying to figure out today. Can machines think? I mean, that's the question, right? It's the stuff of science fiction, the fuel for endless debates, and it's really the beating heart of all AI research. But when Alan Turing himself took a look at this question, his answer was, well, pretty shocking. You heard that right. The father of modern computing, the guy famous for this exact question, basically said it was too meaningless to deserve discussion. So what gives? Why would he say that? Well, for Turing, the problem wasn't finding the answer. It was the question itself, and he was determined to replace it. See, Turing spotted a huge flaw right from the get-go. The question, can machines think, just wasn't scientific. It was messy, it was philosophical, and honestly, it was built on a foundation of sand. He pointed out that words like machine and think are just way too vague. What do we even mean by them? If we try to define them just by how people normally use them, Turing said we might as well be conducting a Gallup poll to solve a scientific problem, which is, completely absurd. He knew we needed something concrete, something we could actually test. So, he invented it. He completely reframed the whole problem by creating a game, a brilliant idea he called the Imitation Game. Okay, so picture this. The original game is super simple. You've got 3 people, an interrogator is in one room, and a man and a woman are in another. The interrogator can't see or hear them and can only ask questions through a typewriter. The goal? The interrogator has to figure out which one is the woman. Now, to make it tricky, the man's job is to fool the interrogator, and the woman's job is to tell the truth. But here's the genius twist. Turing says, okay, what happens if we take out player A, the man who's trying to deceive everyone, and replace him with a machine? Now, the machine has the exact same goal: fool the interrogator into thinking it's the human. And just like that, the entire question changes. We're not getting bogged down in philosophy anymore. We're asking a practical, measurable question. How often can the machine fool the human? All of a sudden, we have an experiment. We can collect data. We actually have a test. Now, Turing was smart. He knew this idea was going to get a ton of pushback. So he spent most of his paper doing something incredible. He anticipated pretty much every objection people could throw at him and dismantled them one by one. The first big one is what he called the argument from consciousness. You know this argument. It's the idea that a machine is just faking it. It can't actually feel happy when it wins or sad when it makes a mistake. It doesn't have any real internal conscious experience. It's just an empty shell, right? Turing's comeback here is just masterful. He points out that this kind of argument leads you to a really extreme dead end called solipsism. That's the idea that you can only be sure that your own mind exists. I mean, think about it. How do you prove that I'm thinking or feeling anything? You can't. We just kind of operate on what Turing called a polite convention that everyone thinks. So his test simply asks us to extend that same polite courtesy to a machine. Next up, you've got the famous objection from Lady Lovelace, who worked with Charles Babbage on his early computing engine. She basically argued that machines can never be truly creative. They have no originality. They can only ever do exactly what we program them to do. Turing's response here is just so forward-thinking. First, he says, well, a powerful enough computer could probably be programmed to simulate originality. But then he makes this really great personal point. He says, you know what? Machines surprise me all the time. He admits it's usually because he made a mistake, but that feeling of surprise is real. It just goes to show that the output of a complex system isn't always what you expect, even if you're the one who built it. All right, now this next objection is a really clever one. It's almost backwards. Some critics said that a machine's biggest strength, its perfection, is actually what would give it away. The interrogator could just ask it a really hard math problem. The machine would spit out the perfect answer instantly, and boom, game over. It's obviously a machine. Turing just kind of swats this one away. He says, look, the whole point is that the machine is programmed to imitate a human, not to be a perfect calculator. So, of course it would pause. Maybe it would even get the answer wrong on purpose to seem more human. It's not a hardware glitch, what he called an error of functioning. It's a deliberate error of conclusion that's all part of its strategy. So, after defending his test from every angle, Turing switches gears. He starts to wonder not just about how to test an intelligent mind, but how we might actually go about building one. And this part is where he becomes a true visionary. He says, instead of trying to program a machine that thinks like a fully formed adult, why don't we do something different? Why not try to simulate a child's mind and then teach it, give it a proper education? He actually broke the whole problem down into 3 parts: what the mind is like at birth, the education it gets, and all the other random life experiences that shape it. I mean, just stop and think about that. He was sketching out the fundamental ideas of machine learning decades before anyone even came up with that term. He finishes his incredible paper, not with some vague, hopeful thought, but with an unbelievably specific, incredibly audacious prediction with a deadline. At the very core of this prediction was one single number, 70%. But 70% of what? Okay, here's the full thing. Turing predicted that in about 50 years, so by the year 2000, we'd be able to program a computer to play the imitation game so well that an average person asking questions for 5 minutes would have no more than a 70% chance of picking the machine correctly. To put it another way, he was saying the machine would fool us at least 30% of the time. He put a clock on it, a 50-year challenge laid down in 1950 with the finish line set for the dawn of the new millennium. He literally put a stake in the ground, turning this philosophical debate into a real technological goal for the next generation. And that, of course, brings us to today. The year 2000 has come and gone. We are living in an age of AI that would have been completely unimaginable back in 1950. So it leaves us with one last massive question. After all this time, have we finally done it? Have we actually built Turing's machine? Now that is something to think about.